he doesn't really make bad movies. But I will say this: as good as like we got our two main actors, right? We got Leo and we got Robert De Niro. Lily Gladstone she stole the show.
Crushed it.
She
was so good. So different. Her mannerisms, her delivery, her personality, it's so different than your typical like female lead. If that,
she from the moment you meet her on screen, she carries this like gravitas.
Dude, what a perfect word. Like, she has a presence.
Because we are back. Welcome to the Movie Dads Podcast. We are your hosts. I'm Howie.
I'm Kyle, and Merry Christmas season, baby. We made it.
That is Kyle, and it is officially November.
It's practice Christmas season, baby.
That's right. We're warming up. We're warming up for the real deal. I still have Halloween decorations outside. I've been busy.
I freaking attacked them yesterday with my little one, so got rid of them.
Tearing it
down. Get out! I gotta get the Christmas tree here.
It's time, but Santa Claus is ready. He's like Mariah Carey. He's ready to come out.
Oh,
which is good.
I'm a Michael Bublé Christmas album. Fair. Don't get me wrong. I also listen to Mariah, but like for me, when it's like you feel it in the air, like it's time. It's Michael Bublé. Like it's beginning to look a lot like Christmas.
There you go.
Too. Anyways,
all right. So, Movie Dads Podcast. This is episode number 26.
Wow.
Episode number 26.
Shocking.
Big premiere movie of the week, slightly delayed. Big premiere movie of the week.
Mm-hmm.
The Martin Scorsese directed, Leonardo DiCaprio starring, Killers of the Flower Moon.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
We will treat this as we would any other big premiere movie of the week. When we start talking about the movie, we'll give spoiler-free information, talk a little bit about it, whether we recommend seeing it in the theaters or not while it's still out. And then we'll give you a spoiler warning so you can skip ahead if you want.
Mm-hmm.
Otherwise, you can listen to the spoilery parts of the movie review. So,
yeah.
But if you're watching us on YouTube, please give us a like and subscribe. Click that bell.
Mm-hmm.
Which we have officially surpassed 100
Woo!
subscribers on YouTube. Big time.
I didn't see that. I haven't. It's been a minute since I checked. Last time I checked, we were like stuck at 97 or something.
Yeah, it was like we were there for like weeks.
Yeah,
but
so
we're at like 101.
We have officially made it. There are 100 people out there that decided to follow a podcast where we talk about nerd shit.
Nerd movie shit. Anyway, if you're watching us on YouTube, give us that like and subscribe. If you're not watching us on YouTube, you can catch us on most podcast platforms such as Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Amazon Music, Google Podcasts, Podcast Index. And you can catch some of our short videos and clips on social media at Movie Dads Pod on Instagram, Facebook, TikTok.
I don't know if you can hear, but your daughter is outside screaming at your dog. Hopefully it doesn't get picked up on my
I can't hear.
Got my window open, so
that means my dog is probably in your yard.
That is probably why it sounded very loud. Yeah, so, your little pup makes literally
a little piece of shit.
So like my office, like we've got basically our main floor is a floor above where my office is, and the stairs that go up to the deck are literally right out my window. So I'll just be like clicking away right here, and then I'll just fucking see your dog Friday, this tiny little puppy, just like slowly start walking up the stairs like 2 or 3 times a day. I'm just like, oh, guess the dog's over.
Yeah, this dog, this beagle, is the tiniest freaking beagle. This dog's this big. And she like eats like a horse and does not grow. She was a runt. They tested her for like blood diseases and stuff when she was in rescue. She's just small, and she like there's a gap under the fence like this big, and I don't know, she's like an octopus and like has no bones, and she just squirts right through. I put 2x4s up all over our yard everywhere there's a gap under the fence. Nothing else I can do about it. I mean, it's this big a gap. She doesn't
really. When I see her, I don't like immediately like go, oh fuck, Friday's out, because like she's pretty chill and she stays there. And if I go near, she usually starts freaking out and running away. So I just text you or your wife or my wife and say Friday's over.
Yeah, my wife will just tell you to keep her.
She has said that 2 or 3 times.
That's her response. But
the first time it happened, though, I wasn't working. I was upstairs in the kitchen, like I was cooking something, and like I thought I saw like a squirrel run by on the deck, and I looked, and there was a fucking dog on my deck, and that was the first time she had done it. So I was like, "Who the fuck are you? What are you doing here?
What's the dog doing here?
You're Friday. You need to go home." So, anyways,
tiny ass dog. Anyway, we're movie dads. We've got movie kids. So we just came out of Halloween. So I gotta kind of share this story. You already know this, but I'm big into Halloween, right? And Reagan's 12, and Reagan is now at the age where she goes with her friends, like immediately, right? Like dad's not taking me trick or treating anymore. And then obviously our boys are second graders, right? So Grayson just turned 8, does a 7. And I just, I want to take my kids trick or treating as I can, right? Because eventually it's lame-o dad, kids not going to want to trick or treat with us anymore, right? So you don't have to worry about that for a while because you've got little kids, but Des is it for me. So
lad.
Right. So my boss schedules a meeting 2.5 hours away on Halloween. And I'm like, we'll be done by 3, no problem. Nope. All day.
I was like, wasn't the meeting planned for the end of the day?
So, I had to drive up Monday night on the 30th, go to a dinner I was required to go to. And then I had
Did they at least Halloween theme it? Was it like, it's Halloween, we're all doing like Halloween dinner and drinks?
I mean, the dinner wasn't. The dinner was like, it was like a fancy Southern place. The food was fine. But the meeting was like it's stupid. And it's just,
I shan't believe that any company manager, director, leader doesn't have any thought of like, oh, the people I'm asking to come to this on a holiday have kids. That this holiday is specifically about being there in the evening to take them around. Shocking that there are people out there.
I know. I would have bet money we were getting out of there early, but at the same time, the last time there was a meeting that I couldn't go to, and she wanted me to present at that one. I had to present at this one too, but she wanted me to present at the last one, and couldn't go. Prior engagements in town, so I couldn't drive the 2.5 hours and then get home late that night because I just couldn't do it. I said, listen, I can't do it that night. Like, listen, kids are out of school. I can't. And she basically was like, you need to find childcare. And it's like,
get the fuck out of here.
I have that in an email.
Fuck off. I had a boss one time that was very much kind of weird like that. Like, and eventually I ended up becoming in a managerial role and tried to be opposite of that. Mm-hmm. But like, there was like a tornado or something. I can't remember if it was a tornado warning or watch or something. It was serious enough that they were sending our kids home from daycare. We worked like 30 minutes in a town called Fremont outside of Omaha. And our kid went to daycare in Omaha. And literally there was like a tornado. They called everyone, was like, hey, everyone come get your kids. And I told that to my boss, and she was like, you're going to leave to go get, like, are you going to use vacation time or are you going to use sick time?
Oh, my God.
I literally was like, you can use whatever time you want. I'm going to get my kids. See you later, and left. And like those little moments, it's the things that you think of and you're like, man, it's shitty I'm going through it, but man, I'm glad because I will never do that to other people.
No, and I'll never do that to anybody else. Yeah, so I get home finally. Listen, Halloween, it seems like it's every other year. Like it's hot one year and then it's freaking freezing cold. And then it's nice the next year and it's freezing ass cold again. Well, it was our cycle for freezing ass cold. So I get home, it's dark. I walk in the house, I put my suitcase down, put my backpack down, I get a stocking cap put on, and I call my wife and I'm like, where are you guys at? And she's like, we're 2 houses down. We've already gone around the block. Des is done. And I'm like, great. I missed it. Missed fucking Halloween.
I hate her. I hate her.
What are you going to do? But
it was balls ass cold, by the way. This was the first year that Parker, like last year, he was like just little enough. He's about to turn 4 in this month. But like last year, he was big enough to like walk and go, but small enough that he got tired super quick and you couldn't keep up with everybody. So like we were way behind. And so it was a lot of like catch up and then catch up kind of throughout the day. And then this year he was old enough to keep up with Des and Grayson for the most part and like fucking sprinted around with them like a little maniac. So they all ended up getting super tired between all of the families that spend time together. One of the awesome families in our neighborhood does like a party every year to kick off this Halloween trick or treat with a bunch of good food. But our 2 kids, like the second we start trick or treating, they fucking are like, it's like a 4x1 relay race. Like they are going straight to the door, getting candy, and then sprinting to the next. So the whole night I'm just like screaming like, slow down, stop running, use the sidewalk, say thank you. But it was so fucking cold. I was wearing 3 sweatshirts and 3 pairs of pants. By the time we got home, everyone was pretty much fucking dead. And Parker was like passed out like from exhaustion in like from success in his mind. Like I just had the best day ever. Yeah. Fucking fall asleep
so much
with all
candy.
This candy around me. Yeah, so yeah, I was really bummed that they did that to you because like usually you're my walking buddy during all that. So but you know, one holiday out the window, the main one back in the scene. So we've got a fancy dinner here midway through that they call Thanksgiving. But the real end of the race, it's that Christmas, and we're almost there. So
it's about the season.
I guess that's our movie dads, movie kids, right? For the week. Let's jump into the segment that gets me up in the morning, gets me excited. Our 6 to midnight. This is our segment where we talk about the new news, new hotness, new movies, new games, comics, whatever the nerdy thing is that is the flavor of the week. I'll jump in first. I know you've got some good info and some good stuff to talk about, but for me, my brother actually sent me this trailer because he's a big nerd about this franchise too. But there's a new Planet of the Apes movie trailer that just dropped, and I think it looks freaking awesome. The movie is called Kingdom of the Planet of the Apes. A lot of words there, mouthful, giggity. But as we were kind of talking through it before, I watched the trailer. I didn't really do a deep dive of like, all right, like where did we leave off on the franchise? Because it's been a while since the last movie came out.
Yeah.
I in my head I thought it was Caesar. You reminded me. Caesar passed away at the end of the last movie. It's like generations ahead. The vibe I got from the trailer, which looks awesome, very post-apocalyptic world. To me, like in this new reboot of this franchise that started back with James Franco back in like 2010 or 12 or something.
I'll look at that. You keep talking.
Which I love. I'm a huge fan. I liked the old movies. Obviously, they're a little bit before my time. I respect them as very well-known movies, but for me, like the new James Franco ones was like, oh, here's a point I can jump on, and it's very different from the old ones because it's like modern times where humans are still alive and normal and running the world. This is kind of a cool, like, oh, how are we going to start Planet of the Apes?
2011. You were close.
Oh, I was close. I was so close. But to me, this trailer, it looks more like we have now reached the point in this franchise where we're at kind of where the original movies were set. Like,
I agree. That's what I thought too when I watched the trailer.
Which was cool and kind of new and refreshing for this reboot, right?
Yeah, I agree. And I, you use the term reboot, but I almost feel like this is almost like it's like a series of prequels that tells the story of how they got there
to get us there.
Yeah, it is a reboot. I mean, like it's the 2001, the Tim Burton one. That was a straight up just remake, right?
Yeah.
And that was a pretty bad movie. It was too. It was dog shit.
It's a bummer.
But like, yeah, it feels like this is leading into the original 1960s, 70s series of movies. So I think that's cool that's how they decided to do it, especially because those were very like humanoid apes, and like when this started with like Caesar, like they're apes that are evolving, and so it's cool. It's cool. It's a great series. I mean, they're all good.
Yeah, the movies they're
great.
Like, it's crazy how good of like story each movie is in its own world for a movie that's like about CG, like talking apes, right? Like,
yeah, but I mean, if you're gonna do, if you're doing CG, right? Like you're doing mocap, like
you gotta have the king.
You gotta have the king, and they did. Yeah. Caesar was played by old Andy Serkis himself.
Yeah, and he is so good as that character. Like, he's a badass.
He's like I wouldn't have had a problem if he'd gotten nominated for awards for that.
Yeah, legit. Very emotional, very amazing, like, very deep in terms of like range of emotions, and even though it's CG, they went like kind of Avatar style with like the technology they use to catch like everything. There's 3 other movies prior to this one. There's the one with James Franco in modern times.
So that's Rise.
And then the next one is like the world, like a world pandemic has hit, and generally most of the world has died, but there's still pockets of humans in places. Yep. They're like held up in like a refugee camp that they've made in the forests outside of San Francisco, which has Gary Oldman as the main bad guy. And
that's Dawn of the Planet
of the Apes, which was Gary Oldman was awesome bad guy, like did a really good job with that. What's the name of we were talking about the main actor? No, the main actor.
Oh, Jason Clarke.
Jason Clarke. This was like him hitting his like stretch and stride as like he was the new hotness that was in a ton of movies, Wallace and Terminator, Zero Dark 30, all these movies. So that was cool. And then the newer one, which was a super fucking long movie, felt like 3 movies in one,
was War
for the Planet of the Apes. Had Woody Harrelson as the bad guy, and he also was like a crazy zealot, like cult leader, and it was a really good movie.
And that one, like that was the one to like, it was obviously the first one was very much like James Franco's movie, and Andy Serkis was a supporting character, right? And then the second one was very much Jason Clarke, Gary Oldman. Caesar was more of a bigger character, right? Because it's more about him. But then War, it's like Caesar's the main character.
Yeah, 100%. He's the dude.
Yeah,
and he does great. There's just a ton of great characters in all those movies. So the new one looks awesome. It's generations after that. Looks really cool. I'm excited. Like, they're back to the point where like humans are the ones that are acting like apes, like they're cavemen kind of vibes. So the whole world looks like it's covered in like freaking moss and trees and greenery. So it's going to be fun. I'm excited for it. That was my 6 to midnight.
Yeah.
What do you got?
Should be good. Well, I was really hoping to, we talked about this prior when we're doing, Flower Moon. I really wanted to do some superhero stuff in honor of old Marty Scorsese, right? So I decided to, my 6 to midnight, we had some Marvel news. So I wanted to share a little bit of that. First thing was actually today we got the trailer for the Disney Plus MCU show, Echo. And Echo is it's a spinoff of the Hawkeye TV series, which came out last year. Echo's a supporting character. She was in comic books. She's a Daredevil character. And she is a deaf Native American that is actually Kingpin's adoptive daughter in the comic books. Yep. So she's getting her own mini series, which comes out in January. And I think it's going to be a little different. They're actually going to release like every single episode at once, which is more Netflix, not so much what Disney Plus usually does, right?
But that's what Daredevil on Netflix did.
Yes.
They dropped the whole season.
Well, that's right. And so the question really was, we've heard like Disney they're like, we're going to do Deadpool. We're going to keep Deadpool like Deadpool. It's going to be R-rated, things like that. And then, we knew we were getting Charlie Cox back as Daredevil. And the concern was, are we going to get Netflix Daredevil, or are we going to get a Disneyed, watered down version of our street level criminal, our street level crime fighter Daredevil? The trailer for Echo leads us to believe we're going to straight up get bone crunching blood and guts, because it kicks off with old Vincent D'Onofrio's Kingpin beating somebody to a bloody pulp, like blood all over his white suit, blood all over his knuckles. Like we see people get their heads shot. We hear necks cracking and breaking in the trailer. It's going to be TVMA, and I'm excited to watch it just because of that. I don't really give a shit about the character, but we know Charlie Cox is in it. We see, because you get a real quick glimpse of him in the trailer as Daredevil, and then Kingpin's obviously in it. So we get those two back. So I'm all for it. I like it. Let's go,
dude. I freaking love Vincent D'Onofrio as a Kingpin. We're like finally getting the Kingpin, and they didn't do it right away. I will say, like when he first started in the Netflix original Daredevil show, like it almost felt like an origin story for him of like becoming the fucking badass Kingpin, ruthless when he fucking crushes that dude's head with the car door.
Yeah.
Like he slowly got there, but once he did, I was like, fuck, I love this Kingpin. He reminds me of kind of like the cartoon 90s like Kingpin if he was a fucking crazy serial killer. And they finally put him in his like iconic suit and purple like ascot thing in this trailer. So that second I saw it was like, I don't know who Echo is. As a comic book nerd, that is a character I am not aware of. But Vincent D'Onofrio Kingpin's in it. By God, I'm gonna watch it.
Yeah.
So,
and you can tell he likes playing the Kingpin.
Yes. Well, because I think he did I might be wrong about this, but I'm pretty sure he did some like, because people liked him so much and he became kind of like a cult, like Vincent D'Onofrio is Kingpin, that he leaned into that and like really was vying for him to continue to do it, or like or they were like originally going to kill him off, and he had kind of lobbied to be like, no, keep me in this thing. Like, I'm fucking loving this. So,
yeah. He's a badass.
Private Piles has come a long way.
Listen, talk about a dude that's like has got a weird career.
Yes.
There's a lot of people that probably would recognize him, but maybe not know his name. But if you think about like everything he's done, like I think everybody's first memory of him is like Full Metal Jacket, right?
Yep. Gomer Piles.
Yeah. And then he's like, remember the movie The Cell with Jennifer
Yes.
Lopez.
Yes.
He's the killer in that. And then he's the main bad guy in the original Men in Black. He's the bug. Yeah.
I never put that together, but like I knew that, but I never put it together.
Yeah, he's old. He's old Edgar. Edgar, your skin's hanging off your bones.
Your skin's hanging off your bones.
And then, I mean, then he did he was the main detective on a Law and Order. Was it Criminal Intent? Dude,
that's
what I'm talking about.
He's been hitting dingers,
but
just fucking his whole career.
He's so
dingers.
well-rounded, right? And then
I
was saying, what was I? I wasn't watching. I was on an airplane not that long ago, and I'm like, oh, I haven't watched the remake of the Magnificent Seven in for so long. I forgot he was one of them. He's one of the seven. He's like the big grizzly one with the beard, and I'm like, holy shit, forgot he was in it.
He's more around than you think.
That's right.
You realize so.
But like Kingpin,
but I think this is his best character.
It is
by far.
It is. That's what I agree. And I, wish more people would see him because, Kingpin hasn't made his big screen debut yet. Maybe we'll get him in a new Spider-Man movie.
Dude, that is exactly what I was just about to say. And we've talked about this on our top Spider-Man villains many episodes ago.
We both had him on our list.
We fucking, for whatever reason, and in the comics, he is very connected to Daredevil. He's one of the main bad guys. We get that. But he's like mainly connected as a Spider-Man villain in my headcanon. And
he is.
For a lot of comics, and especially the 90s cartoon, he was the main overarching bad guy.
Well, he's the main bad guy in Spider-Man, the original Spider-Verse.
Yes, that's actually a great point. And it might actually totally well, I'm talking live action Spider-Man movies.
Well, but at the same time. But
for whatever reason, we just haven't got him in a movie. Now, obviously, maybe previously it was like, well, how do you do that character and have him cool? And we've got freaking Spider-Man swinging around the city. Let's get freaking, Mysterio, which I actually loved. Let's get some cool villains in there. But then Vincent D'Onofrio fucking crushed it. And now I'm like, I need giant Vincent D'Onofrio Kingpin fucking beating Tom Holland's ass for a badass, nitty gritty Queens, New York, friendly neighborhood Spider-Man movie. Give me that. Get rid of all the fucking Tony Stark shit. Get rid of all that classic Spider-Man.
They got rid of it. It's gone.
Thank you. Finally. No, give me the New York Spider-Man shit. I'm here for it. I'm sorry.
Here we go. Maybe it'll happen. We'll just wait and see. So that takes me into my next little bit of news.
We're leading into some of our other things.
So there's been a lot of other Marvel rumors this week too. So I've heard there's always a lot of Marvel rumors, right? Most of them are BS, but or they're coming from some Mr. Potato Hands 6219, whatever.
Usually the things
Reddit.
that I send you that I'm like, look what's coming out.
Well,
it's like, that's a fan film.
There was a story published this week that I think it was by Variety, and it was picked up by a couple other credible news sources that said Marvel realizes right now they have a problem, and everybody's saying it's superhero fatigue. It's a quality thing, which I think we both agree on. It's a quality thing. It's
the superheroes you're using thing.
Yeah, it's the superhero. You're changing too much. You're doing maybe a little too much pandering. And they're not. Listen, we talked about this before we started recording. You either have to care about the superhero, or you have to cast somebody as that superhero that makes him really fucking interesting. Case in point, Tony Stark, Robert Downey Jr. Nobody cared at all who Iron Man was before that.
Facts.
And now he's it. He's the face.
Facts.
So they got to fix it. So the rumor mill is that Marvel is thinking about bringing back the original 6 Avengers to do another movie. Don't know. I mean, listen, they're comic book movies. You can bring anybody back at any time, right? They've already created the multiverse. You can bring back different versions. We already have time travel. We go back and get them.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know how they'd make it work, but they're talking about it. So it'd be kind of interesting to see if they could get that to work. It'd have to be the right thing, I'm sure, to get Robert Downey Jr. back. You'd probably have to pay him $100 million, right?
Yeah, him and Chris Evans both, I think, have been pretty vocal about that. They're like, we're fucking done.
Well, Robert Downey Jr. is pretty definitive, right? And then obviously Scarlett Johansson's.
Yeah, he's dead. That's why
she's dead. Chris Evans, he never shut the door.
Wait, Scarlett Johansson's character died? Do I remember that? When did she die?
Endgame. Remember, she had to fall off the cliff to get the Soul Stone.
Fuck, I thought in my head that was Gamora. Fuck, I don't know.
That's in Infinity War. It's Gamora. In Endgame, it's ScarJo.
Oh yeah, fuck. You know, it's been a while since I've seen.
Well, yeah.
That part 2, and I watched that twice, I think.
Right, but Chris Evans never shut the door. He always said, "I'm done, but I'd consider it if the story was right."
Okay, so that's good to know.
That'd be good to know. But
yeah, I need him freaking holding on to helicopters with his freaking massive guns, being a badass.
Well, it'd be pretty cool if they could get him and old Anthony Mackie both, right, in their cap suits, like doing stuff. It'd be kind of neat, but who knows? Cool. This could be, by the time this could even happen with the actors' strike still going on, Chris Evans could be 50 by then, and Robert Downey Jr. would be like 65. So it could be a while, maybe. I don't know. But anyway, that's a little bit of Marvel news. So in honor of our good friend Martin Scorsese.
Yeah,
we salute you,
the hater of haters. So.
Yeah, it's pretty funny. Well, there was that video too of was it Anthony Russo and with his dog.
Oh yeah.
Martin Scorsese made a little thing where he named his dog Oscar because it's cinema, and then Anthony Russo's like, "Oh, you got a schnauzer, I got a schnauzer too," and he's like, "Come on, box office, let's go."
Yeah, that was pretty funny.
Pretty funny.
I hate Marvel and everything about the things that they do, but that was fucking a nice little.
It was funny.
Gotcha, bitch.
It was good. But anyway, that takes us into our big premiere movie of the week: Martin Scorsese's Killers of the Flower Moon.
Mm-hmm.
So we went and saw this together. For all those people that worry about us doing that, we actually got to see this one together. We went at like 5
hours of it,
8:30 at night. I didn't fall asleep, which was amazing.
I didn't either. Shocking,
because it's a good movie. So it's a long one. It was midnight. It's 3.5 hours. It's a long one.
Feel long in my head.
No, the pacing of the movie is weird, but it didn't feel long.
Yeah, I never got to a point where I was like, oh, Jesus, are we like halfway through or almost done? Like, I didn't have that. It was like,
I never looked at my phone either. I was just like, we were just there,
same.
Yeah. So Killers of the Flower Moon is a nonfiction book based on, it's a movie based on the nonfiction book, about the Osage murders in Oklahoma.
Mm-hmm.
As you can see in the trailers, if you're not familiar with the story, basically what happens is they put these Osage Native Americans on land that is trash, right? Like here's the land we're giving you. And so then they own the land, but it turns out this land is filled with oil.
Yep.
And they even put up some, like factoid cards in the movie that at one point the Osage Native Americans were like the richest concentration of people in the world.
Yeah, like per capita or per something, like everyone here is rich.
Right.
Rich.
So the basic premise of the movie is there's these murders of the Osage, and who's doing it? Why are they doing it? Yada, yada, yada. That's what you see in the trailers, right? There's not a lot of details to it. If you don't know the story, we don't want to obviously spoil it yet, so we're not going to go into details. But our main character is Leonardo DiCaprio. He's returned from war, and he is it's World War I, right? Because this is the early 1900s.
Yep.
He returns from war. He goes to work for his uncle, who his uncle lives in the Osage territory. He's a cattle rancher. And
Robert De Niro.
Robert De Niro. And boy, I'll just say, like, those two are obviously like Scorsese staples, right?
Yes.
De Niro and Leo are like the main two Scorsese guys.
Yes.
They work
between one or the other. They are in every one of his movies.
It seems that way. They're in a lot of them, that's for sure. But boy, they really work well together. And there's a lot of great things about this movie. Like even like the opening scene where Leo's getting off the train, and this isn't spoiling anything, but like the music is just, I don't know, like it hooked me right away. I was like, oh, I'm into this. Like let's him coming off the train, seeing all the different people and all the different dynamics, and it's pretty wild. And then God, both those guys.
It's a cool setting. Like
yes,
that opening scene where you're coming in, like I don't think there's a lot of people that really know the history of that, of like that there was like land where Native Americans were like super wealthy and living like wealthy lifestyles,
right?
In this like what feels kind of like a cowboy town, like a more modernized.
Because you're in Oklahoma. I mean, it's basically you're just, it's almost you're almost down in that like Texas kind of territory, right? It's
So
and
that opening scene, it's like it really sucks you in because you're like, oh, this is like super. I mean, obviously it's not original because it's real life, but it's not something that's ever really been portrayed in a movie. So it's like it's cool. The music it gets you going. And
the settings, the town, the landscape, right? Like the cattle ranch, or even the oil fields, the scope, it seems enormous, right? Even though you're in basically this area, right? It just feels huge.
And there's like a cool little like somehow as Leo's walking through the town, they like all of a sudden like a kind of a drag race down the main road starts and goes by, and like it's a lot of fun. Hooked me in too right at the beginning.
I will say this. The writing's great, the directing's great. Those are almost like, it's like duh. I mean, he doesn't really make bad movies. Sometimes they're not for everyone. He doesn't really make bad movies. But I will say this: as good as like we got our two main actors, right? We got Leo and we got Robert De Niro. Lily Gladstone, she stole the show,
crushed it.
She
was so good. So different. Her mannerisms, her delivery, her personality, it's so different than your typical like female lead. If that maybe I'm like, that's a weird way of saying
from the moment you meet her on screen, she carries this like gravitas.
Dude, what a perfect word. Like she has a presence when she's on screen. For sure.
Yeah, and she plays Leo's wife in the movie, but like, she has like this quiet intensity about her. Just, I thought she stole the show over everybody else. We got a ton of supporting cast members too. We got people that are like not in this movie for 3 hours, right? Like Brendan Fraser and John Lithgow are in it at the end. Like they just show up at the end, like
Fraser
in the third act.
Part of it,
like in the third act they show up. Jesse Plemons, you see him in the trailer. He plays like a Texas Ranger, he plays like an FBI guy that comes to investigate the murders. But there's a ton of famous people. There's a ton of character actors that you recognize when you see them and things like that. I kind of want to get into the details, but I will say this: like, it's not the greatest Martin Scorsese movie. It's not the worst.
I would agree with that statement.
It's epic. And it's worth a watch. Like I'd go see it in the theater. I think we saw it on like an ultra screen, and it was worth it. Like, cause it's so engrossing and it's so big. Like,
Yeah.
I would definitely go see it. I would go see it too. And listen, this is a character, you know, going back to Marty Scorsese. This is an art piece. This is cinema. It cost $200 million. Like, go see it. Go see this movie.
I mean, and I think that for the most part, Scorsese movies like have that. They just have that it factor that like this is going to be a movie that's going to be really good. It might not be the best movie ever, but it's going to be really good, and it's going to be memorable. Like those are the two things with his movies. And memorable of like, I think both you and I said this after, like as we were walking out, was like, that was a really good movie. I don't think I'll see it again though.
Never watch it again.
Like I don't think I'll ever. I don't need to see it.
I don't need to see it again. No, it's not rewatchable.
So
no.
Yes, which don't take that as like as a slight that it's not a good movie. It is really good. There's a ton of cool stuff in it. Like you said, the amount of actors and characters in it, the freaking like the zigzagging of like who's doing what and what's happened and like the intricate relationships and who's a bad guy, who's a good guy.
Threads.
There's so much going on. Yes. So it is really interesting. And but for whatever reason, like you and I both literally walked out, and I think like at the same time we were like, I don't think I'll ever see that again. But it was a really good movie. So yeah, definitely go see it in theaters. Because I think that's probably the setting you need to be in to focus on a 3-hour movie, right? Like if I were to put that on at home, I'm going to miss a ton of it because it's a long movie and I'm going to get up and go get popcorn or go, look at my phone and totally miss stuff. So,
right.
But yeah, I can't remember after 26 episodes, do we give our rating now or give our rating after we do our spoilers?
We'll give it at the end. We'll do,
okay.
Just do it now. Spoiler warning. Spoiler warning.
Get out.
Yeah. Boy. Good movie. So much to unpack, right? You kind of get the gist of the movie right away. These
Facts.
These white people are moving in. All these white dudes are marrying all these Native American women.
Yeah.
So that they can get attached to the inheritance of all this oil money.
Yep.
Is exactly what the whole plot of this movie is.
Yeah.
And Robert De Niro is the mastermind behind killing all these people.
Yep.
You know right away, though. There's no mystery to it.
Yeah. And he's like, I think they talk a lot about he has like funded and founded a bunch of like businesses that are helpful to the community. His character is very much like, I am a friend and supporter of the Osage. Like,
he speaks the language. He sits there and speaks to him.
Yeah, so
in
all
their
of
native
them know
tongue.
him.
Yeah.
All of the Osage pretty much treat him like he's like their family, like grandpa kind of vibe.
Well, there's one of the most powerful scenes I thought in this movie is basically they have like all the tribal leaders in a hut, if you will, and they're talking about the murders and the evil white man and stuff like that. But like Robert Downey Jr. and Robert De Niro are right there. Like they're but they're not considered white men. They're part of the tribe. Like they're including
Leo and Robert De Niro.
What did I say?
You said Robert Downey Jr.
You did that to me. You said that earlier. Now it's in my head.
I keep fucking saying Robert Downey Jr.
So Leo and Robert De Niro are like in there with the Osage, like all these tribal leaders and members and stuff. And, they're part of the tribe.
Yeah. Like
100%.
Literally, as they say, like the white man is like something like the devil or trying to take us down. Yeah. And then Robert De Niro says like his piece of like, we need to go do this. And they all were like,
donate.
Yeah.
I'll give more money for a reward if we find these killers.
Yeah. So
here,
like that was a cool dynamic. You very much picked up that like, okay, Robert De Niro is because they show conversations of just him and Leo and him and his kind of white people.
Yep.
That where they're talking about like, oh, like you could marry, like talking about Leo getting with the main character of like marry her, and she's like
marrying Molly.
She'll make us all the money. I love Leo in this movie because he's freaking just so good.
See, I didn't.
Oh, see, I like him. I just don't like the character. I don't like that he is a like country bumpkin idiot. Like,
maybe
he plays it well, but I just didn't like that he's a dummy.
Maybe that was my issue with it. It was like, I don't know if I liked Leo in that role. Maybe I was like, man, that just seems like that's not Leo's. That's not a role for Leo, and it's not. Yeah. Boy, I don't know what I'm trying to get at there, but it just felt weird.
Yeah, because Leo he's generally like an intelligent leader.
Yes.
Whatever movie he's in, he's like, he carries presence as like a leader, a captain, a intelligent person who's a mastermind. And in this, he plays kind of a dummy, and he plays the dummy role who's trying to be like his own. There's a few times in the movie where he tries to like stray from the path of the plan and do his own thing, and he gets in trouble.
It blows up in his face. Blows up
every time.
And he gets spanked. He gets spanked with a wooden paddle.
Literally gets spanked by Robert DeNiro and a fucking wooden paddle. They break a paddle on his butt. Giggity. He does it so well that like I am like mad at him of like, Leo, you're not a dummy. Like, stop being so dumb.
Yeah,
but he does it good.
It was weird. It bothered me. I don't know, because like I'm thinking about he because like you said, he always plays like a smart. He's got presence. He's charismatic. Almost every role he's in some way, shape, or form. And then there's other roles where he plays off that type, but I don't know. This just seemed so far off. It just seemed weird, right? Like, I don't know. It was off for me. But
and they gave him like
bad. It was just
they gave him like a sling blade like underbite thing. To really go with him being like
glued
a
his
dummy.
Ears out, and then he the whole time talk like this.
Literally fucking sling blade. My favorite part of the movie, even though I liked a lot of it or all of it, like I enjoyed him and Molly when he was like courting her, like when he was trying to like, all right, like I'm her driver. And now I'm trying to like flirt with her and get her to like me.
Because the movie plays it out like he genuinely liked her, and that was never about him marrying her for money. And then in the entire movie too, like you knew he loved her, even though he took part in killing all of her family. Directly, like. Had a lot to do with it and knew it was happening.
Well, but I think there was a lot of it that he didn't know, right? Like
boy, I sure felt like he knew everything that was going on, right? Like, because he had
when the drunk sister got killed by his brother,
his brother, and I thought he knew about it because like they had that like big. Where she threatened the brother with the gun and stuff, and I thought they kind of set that up to make it look like she was a loose cannon, before they murdered her, and he did really good there to make her look, and then he's the one that got the guy to blow up the other sister's house.
Oh yeah, that's a good point. Yeah.
So I mean, he was.
But they do a good job the whole time, like, and this is Scorsese's the king of. Movies where the main character you're following is would be considered a bad guy or villain in the world, doing villainous bad things that you sympathize with throughout the movie, to where you're like you want to look past the bad things that they're doing because you want them to be like victorious. Like Leo blows up the sister. Right. You're like, I want her. I still want Leo to get with her.
And this goes back to how good of an actor Leo actually is. Like, the sister gets blown up. The house blows up. He's in bed with his wife, goes in the middle of the night, goes down there, sees the aftermath, sees the dead body. And then when he has to go back and tell his wife, like, you could tell, like, the way he acts it, like, that character was genuinely upset that his wife's sister was murdered.
Yeah.
Or dead.
Yeah.
Even though he did it.
Yeah.
Or told the guy or paid the guy to do it.
Orchestrated it. Yeah.
It's a 3.5 hour long movie. We could talk about so much about this movie, but I think we just need to get to like just the overall thoughts on it, because like I said, we could talk about it forever. Robert Downey, oh my God, I'm doing it again. Robert De Niro is great.
Easy.
Right, it's all the D, it's the R and the D.
Yeah.
Robert De Niro is great.
This is like the third episode, I think, where I've mixed those up.
We do it. It just happens. Robert De Niro is great in this movie. He's sinister.
Yes.
He's very much like the mastermind of all, and it almost gets comical though, that like all these people are dying and it takes years for anybody to do something about it. Like it's pathetic.
Yeah.
It's not,
which is kind of the point.
It's not funny. But
it's kind of the point, because that's what happened, right? Like, took them going to Washington to like lobby.
Yeah, the first time they sent somebody to Washington, that person like got there and got murdered.
Yeah, got murdered. So maybe that's why it took so long for them to get down, because the person that was supposed to go whistleblow never made it.
You're just, I don't know, you're kind of waiting for like street justice, but it never happens. It's so obvious. Like, I mean, there's so many different people involved. Like, hey, we need to find this guy to go kill these people. Do you know where he's at? And then, no, I don't, but go ask Jim Bob. And then Jim Bob's like, yeah, I got stuff to do. And then I'll go see if I can track him down. And it's like, how many people know what's going, like everybody knows what's going on. Right. And basically like Leo ends up poisoning his wife, right? Like slowly over time. And
because she has diabetes
and she's getting insulin, and the insulin's tainted with poison, basically. Mm-hmm. But she gets pregnant with their third child. And when the child's born, the child has respiratory issues, right? So Leo gets arrested. You could tell very much that he's planned to be the scapegoat, right? Mm-hmm. And he'll never talk, family, all this. But the child dies while he's in jail.
Yeah.
And that to me, you and I talked about this after the movie. To me, that was very much the point where his character Ernest is like, all right, now I'm gonna tell him what happened.
Yeah, like fuck these guys.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. You mean when you mentioned that, because like I didn't pick up on that. I mean, I picked up on that he was giving her the insulin and that she was continuing to get sick.
Right.
When I was watching it, I had thought that he was actually giving her real insulin to start to help, and then at some point when they implemented, like, make sure you add this to it too. Mm-hmm. But that was more when because it was a doctor that was administering it, and then he basically took over to being the one to do it.
Because she didn't trust the doctors, so she only trusted him to do it, and that's why he had to keep poisoning her.
And so, like, truly, they do such a good job of acting that, like you said, you feel in the whole movie that he, like, loves his wife, and he, like, that they are in it together, mm-hmm. but also he's got to follow what his uncle, who is essentially like his dad in the movie, mm-hmm. like, he's got to follow whatever he wants him to do. And so that's all. I kind of felt like that, and like maybe that's Leo should get some credit for that. Mm. Is that he's a dummy that clearly loves his wife, but is like dumb enough to be loyal to like, I'm just going to do what my uncle tells me to do, and like keeps getting me like in shitty situations, but like I'm going to do it. Anyways, like you said, that part was whenever his daughter dies and he like breaks down in jail, mm-hmm. while Robert De Niro is in the other jail cell, like there's a lot of back and forth between like, is Leo turning? Is he not
Right.
turning? Is he turning? Which I like the whole movie. I was holding on that him and his wife were going to like sail off in the sunset. I knew it wasn't going to happen, but I wanted it to. And then at the end, when she says like, she even felt like kind of alluded to it at one point. Like, I had a dream that like we went down by the river and like you told me all your secrets. We put it in a box and sent it down the river, and then we lived happily ever after or whatever. And then there's a couple scenes later where she basically is like, yep, you've told us all, like you've given us everything that, you know, about that happened with this and your involvement. But like, my last question that you haven't told us all your lies. Like, were you poisoning me? And like, he doesn't answer. And that's where she's like, okay.
Yep. Yeah. You killed my 2 sisters and my mom, and you killed our kid. But, you know, I don't know. Like, there is that hint of like, is she going to forgive him? Like, no.
There really is. There really is.
There is.
There is.
But yeah. It's a wild movie. Everybody's good in it. She's the best. 8.5.
I was thinking in my head, like, fucking really good movie, but like I would never really see it again. So like an 8.5. But like quality movie, it's a 9. It's a 9 movie. It's really good.
I got no problems with a 9 whatsoever, but like, I'm trying to compare it to like other movies we've seen this year.
Yeah.
And I'm like, that's where I come up with the 8.5, because I'm like, I just don't think it's quite as good.
Yeah, it's tough to put that next to Oppenheimer.
That's kind of what I'm getting at.
But like, yeah, I mean, yeah, it's not as good as Oppenheimer, but it's good in its own way, because it's a it's another Leo, Robert De Niro, which I thought at this point in his life, like based on like some videos and clips that have come out over the last couple of years, that he's like kind of senile and over the hill. Seemed very much normal, crushing it, Robert De Niro.
That man's gonna live to be 120.
Yeah. Well, there was, and maybe I shouldn't jump too deep into this, but there was like a year or two ago, like a kind of a scandal that came out with Robert De Niro and like his assistant, him being kind of like an abusive person.
We just had a kid.
Yes, like so there's he's like got 80. Some weird shit going on. But he is in Robert De Niro, and he plays the villain with like, he plays the wolf in disguise very well in this movie. So I'm going to give it a 9, because I thought it was a really good movie, really well
totally
done.
good, yeah.
But I maybe watch that one more time. Maybe.
Yeah. So that's it. That's our review for Killers of the Flower Moon. Go see it for sure in the theater.
Yeah.
Then that takes us into There Can Be Only 5.
Only 5.
So we're going on brand this week. Nothing controversial. We're going on brand. We're going to do easy peasy, lemon squeezy, top 5 Scorsese movies. There's a lot. He's got quite the catalog. He's been making movies for a long time.
He does have a lot. And there was some that I didn't, honestly, and did not realize that were his movies, so.
That's right. Yeah. There's he's got quite the catalog. Obviously, like, 50% are Leo, 50% are Robert De Niro. But yeah, it's,
honestly, yes. I'm looking at my list now as you say that, and I'm like,
and I've seen older Scorsese movies, right? Taxi Driver, Mean Streets, King of Comedy, right? And I've seen them all.
Raging Bull,
right? Any Raging Bull was early 80s. And then, obviously classics in the 90s, 2000s, and obviously 2010s. So quite the catalog, quite the different, movies to pick from. So here are my top 5 Scorsese movies. All right. Number 5, Wolf of Wall Street is at number 5. Boy, what an intense movie. It's crazy. Yeah. There's so much in that movie, right? It's batshit crazy. The drugs, the alcohol,
so wild.
Get
fucking, the lewds.
It's fucking great, man.
The Quaaludes.
Jonah Hill, Leo, McConaughey, like everybody in that movie is fucking rock stars. I love that movie.
Yes. And there's so much controversy behind that movie. Like,
sure.
Crazy stuff has like
Margot Robbie's in that movie. She's great in that movie too. Like it's awesome.
Yeah.
Wolf of Wall Street, number 5. Number 4, I have Raging Bull at number 4.
Oh,
classic.
There it is.
Man, DeNiro is phenomenal in that movie. The decision to make it, the black and white, like we've talked about that as a choice in movies before. Mm-hmm. Like it's wild. Talk about De Niro and his commitment to a character, like the boxing scenes he's just cut, right? And then like there's the scenes where he's older and he like purposely gained like 80 pounds to play the older version of Jake LaMotta, right? Like it's wild, but it's a great movie. It's an all-timer. I mean, some of the lists I looked at have it at the top, but it's not my favorite, but it's up there for sure. Number 3, I have Casino, which is a personal favorite. I know it's not one of his best quality-wise, but what does it for me is fucking Joe Pesci. That dude is dynamite, especially in Scorsese movies. Like Sharon Stone's awesome in that movie.
Yes.
Obviously De Niro's great in that movie. It's almost like I always felt like, and I was obviously younger when it came out, but it almost felt like a unofficial Goodfellas kind of like sequel, but it's not, right? Yes. You know what I mean?
Yes.
But I really like Casino because it's awesome. It tells the story of like all the casinos and how it kind of got started in Vegas and all the mob stuff behind the scenes. And
Scorsese just gets like he gets the mobster.
He does, and he always seems like the most mild mannered, like little guy that but he
who
just
hates
like
superhero movies,
right? But he makes all these like these hardcore mobster movies and stuff.
Yeah.
And number 2, I have The Departed. This was obviously when this movie came out, it's Leo, it's Wahlberg's in it, Matt Damon, Jack. It's a fucking awesome movie. And it was like, and Scorsese made it for fun, right? Like that was always his big story, was like, I made this movie for fun. This was my popcorn flick. And then it wins all these freaking Oscars. It's like, it's the one that really, like, he was surprised, and he like won his first, was it his first Best Picture? I think it was Scorsese's, and like it was a shocker.
It's a good question.
I think it was, and it was like Marty's first Best Picture win, and it was the shocker because like he didn't expect it, and but it is a great freaking movie, and man, I'm a big fan of like those. I'm a big fan of those crime dramas, like with the undercover cops and stuff. Like I kind of like that genre. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Awesome movie if you haven't seen it, and it's wild. There's some twists and turns in it too that you don't expect, and it's pretty awesome. And then number 1,
had a ton of movies nominated for Best Picture.
Yeah, but
I was like trying to find where he won his first one,
and I think it was The Departed was the first one where he won.
It was 2006.
Yeah, that's right. And then number 1, my number 1 Martin Scorsese movie is Goodfellas. It's not even close. It's hands down. Like I could watch that movie 100 times. I consider it to be one of the greatest American films ever made. Ray Liotta.
I remember you saying that on an episode that you would consider it like one of, if not the greatest movie of all time.
Yeah, it's probably in my top 10 of all time. Ray Liotta, Robert De Niro, Joe Pesci. It's that movie that's a 10. And
I just watched it today again.
Oh, fuck, I love that movie.
It's been a while since I'd seen it, and was like, Scorsese, like I'm gonna watch Goodfellas again. And it is so good. It's one of like, and a lot of between watching Killers of the Flower Moon, Goodfellas, I have been listening to a lot of like mobster podcast YouTube videos of Michael Francini. Francis. He was like a famous mobster. He's like basically the most famous social media like video guy from the mob, former mobster, and he like the characters from Goodfellas are all like real life characters from like they are actually people.
Yeah, it's a real. It was based on another one based on a book, all real people, and yeah.
So like listening to his stuff when he talks about Goodfellas, he's like, this movie is like the most accurate like depiction of like what mob life was, of like being a wise guy. Like this is what it was. So Goodfellas is so fucking good. It's a great fucking movie.
It's fucking awesome.
That's Ray Liotta's best movie by far.
Yeah, he never got. Ray Liotta had a weird career. He never got super famous. You know, he's in a whole bunch of stuff, but it was never. That was it. Like that was his. Yeah. And he shines. I mean, and you're in this.
Perfect for the role.
He was, and you're in this movie with all these like heavyweights, and you killed it. Like man, if I were him, I would have just called Marty and been like, "Can I be in your next movie? I don't care if I'm the lead. Just keep putting me in your movies."
Yeah, keep letting me be a part of
doing it.
Nice. I had a strong feeling that was going to be your number one, and on almost every list I saw, that was number one for what people had for Scorsese movies. So, love it. Let's jump into mine, and I think. Per usual, I've got movies on here that people would disagree in terms of like when I think of a Scorsese like Academy nominated movie, like these are what should be listed. I went off of like movies that I think are really cool and interesting and that are like my top 5 that I would want to watch. Same thing with our next list. I kind of did the same thing. It was hard to like list them out.
Sure.
And so I listed, instead of listing them out of like, what do I think is like a 10 out of 10 and a 9 out of 10? Like, I was like, which ones do I want to watch the most? Because that's going to be how I rank it. So, my honorable mention, and it was hard not to have this on the list, is Wolf of Wall Street. I freaking love that movie. It's a ton of fun. You talked about it. I just, that the time frame that movie like lives in, like the era that it's in, is fucking cool, and I love it. Number 5, I had The Irishman. I think I'd kind of shat on this movie when we were in an episode, or just said it was like kind of long and boring. It is a super boring movie.
Yeah,
but it is really good.
It is really
good. And watching Goodfellas today, like The Irishman feels like, I wouldn't say like a sequel. I definitely think Casino feels more like a sequel.
I always felt like they were like this spiritual trilogy.
Yes. Like The Irishman feels like it's like part of the universe, like the Goodfellas universe, if that makes sense. So I thought it was great. Like when they were dropping it and they were like, there's a Scorsese, Robert De Niro mafia movie that's coming out, and it's coming out on Netflix. Like it was cool. I watched it like the moment that it dropped. I think I ended up doing like 2 nights because it was so long.
Same.
I was like,
it's 4-hour movie.
So,
can I was going to say, I was going to say this, and I forgot to mention this when we were doing Killers of the Flower Moon. When we were talking about people need to go see that in theaters because of the scope and everything, I felt like The Irishman was wasted on Netflix. Like, I understand that they paid hundreds of millions of dollars to exclusively do a Scorsese movie to streaming.
Yeah.
It just felt wrong.
They should have done like well, I think at the time, I would have to look at the time frame, but when it wasn't that like COVID, no movie theater time frame?
I think it was.
Maybe before it, or
I think it was, but it was like, I couldn't believe that Scorsese would do that. He's such a cinema guy, you know? Like,
yes.
It felt weird.
Especially him freaking barking about like art and like film is an art. Except when I come out with a movie on a streaming service.
Yeah. Except for when they pay me enough money.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
But it's a fun movie. Actually, when you just saying that makes me think like they should have done like the Alamo Draft House should have done like the Irishman like double feature with Killers of the Flower Moon. And
Well, Apple's doing things. I like the way Apple's doing things because obviously Apple has its own streaming service, right? So, but they're producing these movies to come out in theaters. Killers of the Flower Moon is one of them. They produce it to come out in theaters, and then like 60 days later, it'll be on Apple streaming. But like Netflix could have done that. That's why I don't understand why they don't do that.
I'd have to look at it. I didn't really dive in deep with the Irishman of like when it dropped, but I wonder if they did like a limited theater release or something.
Man, I don't think they did. I'll look it up, but I don't think they did.
But that's my number 5, Irishman, and it's Robert De Niro, so it's good. Number 4, like nobody has this high on their Scorsese list, but I think this is a genuinely awesome movie. Shutter Island. Freaking like Leo in this like detective noir, creepy, mysterious, like we don't know what's going on, and every time we think we do, we don't. Like it's a really, really good movie. If it's ever on like HBO or something, or like back whenever TV, less streaming service and watching more TV. If it was ever on, or I was ever like a hotel and it was on, it was one of my go-tos. I really like Shutter Island. So, Mark Ruffalo and Leo are a pair that you wouldn't expect to be so good together. So, and then my number 3 matches your number 3. I've got Casino. This is it's an all-time classic movie. I feel like this was on TNT like every fucking day for like 15 years.
Man, it's too bad you don't get the cornfield scene on TNT though.
But it's like I freaking love a good like mafia, mobster, wise guy, like the like creation of like Las Vegas. It's like it's a cool story. Cool, like Joe Pesci and Robert De Niro are mafia wise guys, which I guess technically it's they're not like made men, but still freaking love Casino. And then for a surprising turn, I had to list these two out strictly based on what I would watch or what I think I would want to watch. I've got number 2, Goodfellas. So I did not have Goodfellas my number 1 Scorsese movie. I do love Goodfellas. Like you mentioned, Ray Liotta is a badass. Joe Pesci he's a good side character. I love just like my favorite part of that movie is you essentially watch like the lifespan of a wise guy coming from a kid hustler on the street, working his way up in his own way. And honestly, they're kind of like a side hustle because like they don't become made men. Like they don't actually become part of the mafia.
Yeah.
Except Tony does. Well, they tell Tony they're going to, and then that's Joe Pesci's character, and then they can take him out. Spoiler.
They whack him.
Yeah, they whack him. Yeah, there you go. But like I just really enjoy that. Like and they go through different decades. So like each decade, like their clothing changes, the cars change. They do a cool job with that. And then my number 1, no one has this on their Scorsese list in their top 5 or top 10, but for me, it's my number 1 because I think this movie is fucking badass. Is Gangs of New York.
Oh, nice.
Gangs of New York is so fucking cool and has one of, if not the most badass / iconic opening scenes to a movie. Like, you've seen Gangs of New York, right?
Yep.
I imagine. Like this freaking like early New York. Qui-Gon Jinn is like this badass. He's the priest. He's like it's kind of goofy how the gangs are. They're all like their own like like their own genre is each. So it kind of feels like a video game. All these gangs, they fight each other, kind of a la vibes of like Warriors. But like the opening scene is this fucking super cool.
Warriors,
like,
such a fucking awesome movie,
dude. Great
Carry
fucking
on.
movie. They've got this like kind of like war drum and Irish like flute playing as like Qui-Gon is getting ready. He's like shaving his face, and he grabbed like the son who ends up becoming Leo. He like grabs the blade as he's trying to wipe the blood, and he's like, "You always leave the blood on the blade." And then he leads this freaking group outside. They kick the door open after showing you all these different cool like war like battle like very different. There's like an Irishman with a shillelagh. There's a girl that's got like the Wolverine claws, and then there's freaking Qui-Gon Jinn with his giant fucking wooden cross dressed as a priest. And boom, we are now on a battlefield across from Daniel frickin' Day-Lewis as the Butcher. And they have this like, we have rules to this fight. No doing this, no doing that. Like, like bosses stay on, all bosses, like no killing bosses, only bosses can. And they just have this fucking epic war, like riot battle that ends up being a cool, kind of sad way of Qui-Gon Jinn dying. But like that opening scene, like hooked me into that movie, like for the rest of time. I love that movie. It's fucking awesome. Leo basically being the dude that's like avenging his father. He's going on this life quest to take out his father's killer, even after becoming like the right-hand man of his father's killer. It's fucking awesome. I love Gangs of New York.
It's a good movie.
Seen it.
No, it's
fucking
a good movie.
See it. Also, I didn't know that was a Scorsese movie till today. When I was
really?
looking up my list, I was like,
right.
what?
Yeah.
That's Scorsese.
He's got so many movies that are like different tones, you know, even though they all have, you know, similar things. But like, I mean, think about Gangs of New York's like this period action freaking crazy ass movie. But then he does like these mobster movies. Then he does like Shutter Island, which is like a thriller kind of deal.
Yeah.
Or Cape Fear, right? Like that's super thriller, right? You know, he does
the
those.
mobster ones all feel like
that's
the
what you
same.
think of when you think of Scorsese, right? Like you're like, that's the mobster movies, right? Like that's it.
Yeah. Yeah.
But yeah. You know, have you ever seen Silence?
Oh, when I was looking on the list, I saw that and was like, fuck, I know that's a recent movie that came out. And I probably should have seen it.
Andrew Garfield and Adam Driver. I've never seen it. I've never seen it.
Maybe it would be on my list, but I just, at the time it came out, it just didn't look interesting.
It was, I can't remember. It was on one of the lists I looked at. It was number one. It was number one.
Yeah, maybe that's.
I think with Varieties, maybe it was number one. But anyway, maybe that's something we need to watch. But
I did see, like, as I saw it on the list, that was my exact thought. Was like, fuck, that didn't look interesting to me, but I know it was really well received.
Yes,
or at least people that watched it actually really liked it. Cool. All right,
but
that's
Irishman was 2019, so it was pre-COVID. And it was a Netflix exclusive that did a limited, less than like a couple hundred theaters run for like 2 weeks.
Okay, so
it was just a Netflix kind of deal, pretty much.
Yeah, wild.
Yeah,
a 4-hour Netflix, basically 2 movies in one. Okay, let's jump into my There Can Be Only 5, which it stays on brand. And with Killers of the Flower Moon having Leo as the lead, I said, let's do top 5 Leo movies. Which at first I was kind of like, fuck, my Scorsese and Leo movies I'm gonna have a lot of the same movies on the same list, but it didn't end up turning out that way. So this was much harder for me to pick because Leo is good in everything. I can't think of a movie that Leo's in that I like hated him in or hated the movie. So
that's fair. And I know there's people that don't like Leo, and it's like he's really good at just about everything he's in. Like I can never think of a Leo movie. Honestly, I was thinking like Killers of the Flower Moon might be the worst I've ever liked him. And it's just because of the
because they make him ugly and dumb.
I don't even care if he's ugly. It's well, it was even like what was the one that came out? Was it last year? Don't Look Up. That
oh, dude,
right?
What a movie! Funny fucking movie.
Yeah, weird, bizarre movie. But
weird.
Like, he's like this doofy looking professor type, right? Yeah. He's, you know, and but I didn't mind that because I don't know, he wasn't like this, but I don't know.
Because it wasn't Scorsese that's supposed to be Oscar worthy.
I don't know. Yeah, it just wasn't. It just maybe I didn't like him because of that. I don't know what it was.
I think so like when I was growing up, like when Titanic came out, like obviously it was a huge deal, it was a huge movie, but he was kind of the actor that like it was cool to hate on him of like, oh, like like we're the kids at school were like, we're not supposed to like him because
was it because like every girl was like, oh, Jack, you know?
Yes, because everyone was obsessed with him. Yeah. So like every boy was like, oh, Leo's so
that
annoying.
Guy. Yeah, stupid.
But like then I grew up and became like an adult who's aware of like film and like good actors and him being like one of the greatest ever.
You know what I'd like to see him do? I would like to see him like do a just straight up like well done like action movie, like just a kick-ass, something that he doesn't usually do. You know, get a little out of his comfort zone. Yeah, he never does. He's never done something like that. I mean, like what's the closest thing? Like Blood Diamond?
But, I would say like probably Inception maybe is like that's
I guess
movie. It's also like a total mind fuck.
But it's also a big award kind of movie too, you know. That's
well, it's Christopher. Think about who the hell. When you look back, one of his list of movies, it's like, Jesus, you've been in a lot of very well-known and well-received movies. And he's worked with all of like the greatest directors of our time. Like, he's done movies with Scorsese. He's done movies with Christopher Nolan. He's done movies with fucking Once Upon a Time in Hollywood. Why can't I think of the name of
Tarantino?
Tarantino. Like, he's just done these crazy... Freaking James Cameron, like he's worked with everyone, and all those movies have been great.
Yeah.
Okay, well, let's jump into it because I'll talk forever, and you know I talk longer than I should. I did have one honorable mention. I did not get it on the list, but I did want to mention it because I actually love this movie. I have technically I have two. I've got Romeo and Juliet. Not a lot of people would say that as their favorite movie of his, but I love that movie. He's great in it. John Leguizamo is great as Tybalt. It's actually a fucking cool movie.
It is.
And then it was hard not to have this one on the list, but Once Upon a Time in Hollywood. I was not excited to go see that in theaters. I didn't. And one night, for whatever reason, late, I was like, I'm going to watch that. And then was like hooked because it was a fucking good movie. Him and Brad Pitt are a cool pair.
Yeah, and it's I was surprised, and I'm talking too much, but like I liked Brad Pitt more than I liked Leo, which is surprising to me because it was like because I know Leo's probably the better actor, but it was like, but I don't know, I think because Brad Pitt's character was a lot fucking cooler.
Yeah, he was a lot more likable. He was like Leo was kind of like the fucking head up his ass actor, but like Brad was like the I'm a stunt guy. He's my best friend, and I'm a stunt man. I'm gonna make sure I take care of him, but I'm fucking cool. And he was. Number 5. Felt weird not to have this on my list, so I put it on there. Titanic. Titanic is, I would argue, an all-time classic. It is a movie. I mean, obviously, it's like one of the highest grossing films of all time, or was the highest grossing film of all time.
It was at one point. It's still top like 4.
Yeah. And it's, as a kid, I freaking loved the movie because it was like we got to see this huge boat hit an iceberg and sink, and like that was fucking cool. But like, if that's a movie that you can watch like once a year or once every 2 years and still like enjoy it. If it's on TV, you'll jump on and watch it. And he's a fucking badass kind of suave, debonair street rat in that, you know, kind of get like Aladdin vibes.
For sure.
And then I won't talk much about this because I've got number 4 here, just like my last list. I've got Shutter Island. I really liked that movie. I love the mystery, and Leo crushes it. And there's a great twist ending. And then number 3, I did have a tie, but I'm only going to really talk about one. The Revenant. I fucking love The Revenant when it came out. It's not The Revenant, it's just Revenant. It's such a fucking cool movie. The cinematography is insane.
Yep.
That was his first best actor winning role, which I think a lot of people think that he was given that because they thought he deserved it for other roles. And
I would be one of those people.
For sure. So I think there are other movies where he played a leading role that he should have won or could have won. And this was not his best. But I did really like this movie. Like I said, the cinematography, the sound. When this came out, it was when I had just bought like the biggest TV that I had ever owned in my life. It was like 4K. And this was back when we had a tiny little house. So like it felt massive in our living room.
Sure.
And that was the first movie that I watched. And it's like, I remember it vividly, like being just beautiful. The music, the score is powerful in that movie. I have the main score of that on like all my like working playlists and stuff. It's really good. And then I had that tied at number 3 with Gangs of New York because I fucking love Gangs of New York. It's a great movie. Number 2 and number 1, again, this was actually hard to rank them where I did because these could easily flip or be tied. But I went with the decision of going with, if I had to pick one of these two to watch right now, which one am I going to pick? And I put the one that I would pick at my number 1. My number 2, and it's probably the movie I've seen more than any of them, is Catch Me If You Can. Leo in Catch Me If You Can is amazing. He plays this con man who becomes an airline pilot. He cons the FBI. Him and Tom Hanks are a great freaking cat and mouse like duo for the whole movie that end up becoming good friends in real life. The two people end up becoming good friends. When I traveled for work a lot, was in hotels, this was on HBO like every day. Like Catch Me If You Can is it probably to this day, if you have HBO, like the actual TV channel,
it's probably on.
It's
right
probably
now.
playing right now. It's
always on HBO 2 right now.
Yes, it is literally always on. But it's a movie that I would put on in the hotel room all the time because I just liked it. It's a lot of fun. It's in a cool time period. Fucking awesome movie. Yeah, that's my number 2. And then my number 1, I have fucking love this movie. Inception as my number 1 Leo movie. I know there's a lot of movies that were left off this list, and a lot would argue why that would be at the top, but like, I think I've talked about this before. Inception is just it's such a good movie.
Yes.
It's a huge mind fuck.
I had it as my top Nolan movie.
Yes.
When we did that list, yeah.
It's a ton of it's super thought-provoking and very different. It's very original, a dream within a dream within a dream to plant an idea so that idea becomes that person's thought and decision when he wakes up. And Leo just crushes it, and he crushes it from a standpoint of like there's loss, there's like trying to get back to his family, like trying to make the decision of like the love of his life, that his kindred spirit love of his life, and his kids, and like trying to make she ends up going crazy.
Yep.
And him having to make a choice between like I fucking love you. Like, why do you have to be like this? I got to go make sure like the kids are okay. Like, he does such a good job in that movie. And
yes,
it's fun. Like, some people I think would say you got to watch it more than once to kind of understand what's going on.
Absolutely.
But like, for whatever reason, like just maybe I was just so locked in, was really able to kind of grasp it my first time around, and just like it hit for me. Freaking love that movie. Inception, my number one Leo movie.
Nice. I like your list. It's good.
Sweet.
Good list.
What you got?
We got a lot of differences, which is surprising. But I did mine a little different, like I tend to do.
Yeah.
My list is not based on the quality of the movie, but the quality of the performance.
Ooh.
So I did mine a little different.
Nice.
So
Ooh.
yeah, so I did mine a little different. So I maybe I don't have some of his best movies, but I have what I consider his best work on my list. So
I already, on top of my head, I already know one that's going to be on there.
So number 5. Oh, no. I do have an honorable mention. I did an honorable mention because I had to put this on here because it's the movie that he won an Oscar for. So I put an honorable mention. I put The Revenant.
There it is.
It is an epic movie. It's fantastic. His performance without talking is crazy. I believed he was actually getting eaten by a bear. Like,
dude, that bear scene was wild.
Leo
also, I
is
forgot to mention Tom Hardy being.
I know, right?
Great,
he gets so forgotten in that movie. Yes. Amazing performance, and yes, I think that was 100% a "we owe you this award" thing.
Okay,
I 100% agree.
I can agree with that.
At number 5, I have This Boy's Life. If you've never seen it, have you ever seen that movie? 1993. It's a memoir where he plays the author. Basically, it's a true story about Tobias Wolff. And growing up, it's a coming of age, I think it takes place in like the 50s. True story about basically the relationship he had with his mom's second husband, his stepfather, who was very abusive, who was played by Robert De Niro.
Wild. Oh shit.
And it's it's a tough watch because Robert De Niro beats the fuck out of him and he's a kid and it's wild.
Dude.
But
that had to be before what's Eating Gilbert Grape, right?
Yeah, pretty close to. Well, let me look. Pretty close to in time, but yeah, that was in 1993.
Fascinating.
Yeah, but
it's
it's
not
great.
A movie that I've seen.
Yeah, if you've never seen it, definitely worth a watch. Number 4, I had Once Upon a Time in Hollywood for all the reasons that you mentioned about Leo. He's great in that movie. It's a wild movie. Him and Brad Pitt together. Awesome. Number 3, I had What's Eating Gilbert Grape.
Oh, let's go. Sorry, I didn't mean
they
to.
came out the same year. They came out the same year. Yeah.
I didn't mean
to jump
the gun with that for you.
What's Eating Gilbert Grape? He's phenomenal as Arnie. He actually got a lot of crap for that role because people thought it was over the top. The way he played a mentally challenged teenager. And I didn't think so. I thought he was fantastic. And if I remember right, that was the first time he was ever nominated for an Oscar for supporting actor was for What's Eating Gilbert Grape. If you've never seen that movie, Johnny Depp is the lead actor, and it's a really good movie. Basically, it's a kind of a family drama, but it's pretty wild. It's a good movie, worth the watch. And number 2, I had Wolf of Wall Street. I think his portrayal in that movie probably deserves an Oscar as well. Like that movie, he's so crazy over the top. I would have believed he was freaking doing drugs, like the way him and Jonah Hill act in that movie. It's
scene where he's crawling out of his house. Trying to get into the car.
It's awesome.
It's one of the greatest scenes ever.
It's so over the top and it's so well done. Yeah, he's awesome. And that's one of those movies that's just...
I send that gif of I'm not fucking leaving to people all the time. I'm not fucking leaving.
Yep. Oh, that's great.
What a great fucking movie.
Great. And then at number 1, like my favorite all-time Leo performance is Django Unchained. I wanted him to win everything that year. As good as Christoph Waltz is in that movie, and he won the Oscar. Yeah. I thought Leo deserved it. Like that, man. There's this comedian, I can't remember his name off the top of my head, but he talks about like all these people that do these movies in bravery, and he talks about bravery of Leonardo DiCaprio sitting across from Jamie Foxx and Samuel L. Jackson using the N-word. And he said,
Yeah.
that's bravery. And that
Yes, I
scene
know
where he
exactly what you're talking
smashes the glass and he literally cuts his hand
Cuts his
open
hand, yeah.
for real and rubs his blood all over Kerry Washington's face. Like,
Yep.
doesn't break character once. Dude's fucking awesome.
When they talk about that scene, it's they talk about it as like this transcending like moment in acting history where they were like, oh fuck, and he just keeps going and they're like, keep rolling.
Yeah.
Keep rolling.
It's fucking, that's legendary. Not even just that scene, but like that performance is so,
dude,
that movie's wild in its own right, just because of everything that happens in it. But like, he's so dastardly as the villain.
What a perfect word for it.
Oh
yes.
my God.
Jamie Foxx talks about that, his performance in that too, of like Jamie, I think like they were kind of friendly on set of like saying highs in the morning and like being normal, and then I think Jamie kind of like said something to him of like, hey, like you're like, it's okay to say the N-word around us, like remember you will own us. And like Jamie Foxx talks about like that like seemed to flip a switch, because like the next day he tries to say hi to Leo and Leo like fucking ignores him and basically just gets into character at all times and talks about how freaking awesome it was. When you said I picked these movies based on performance, that was the movie I thought like, ooh, that's either going to be on the list or
and I feel like it doesn't get talked about enough, just because maybe it's because he's a supporting character, but I mean, like,
it's not in it very long.
So that was 2012, right? And he got screwed over because they petitioned Christoph Waltz to get the Oscar, instead. They basically like fronted him, which I'm not saying that was a bad performance. I just didn't think it was the same.
Did he get Best Actor
supporting
for that or Best Supporting Actor? Okay,
right.
Yeah, I was like,
supporting.
I don't know if you can give him Best Actor because he was barely in it.
So he did that. He did that movie, and then his next movie came out was A Great Gatsby, which think about whatever you want as the movie. He was awesome in it, and then he did The Wolf of Wall Street, right? Like, so he does all those, then he does The Revenant, and I think that's when they're like, we better give it to him.
Yeah, yeah, like
because if he didn't get it for Django and he didn't get it for Wolf of Wall Street, let's give it to him for this movie because he deserves it.
It's weird to think that Great Gatsby came out after Django, and like in my head canon, Django is it's newer than Great Gatsby is.
Yeah, they're both.
And I agree. A lot of people don't look at
2012, 2013. It's been 10, 11 years.
Yeah, a lot of people don't like. People were like really disappointed in The Great Gatsby, but like I thought he played a really good Gatsby.
I thought he did too, and I thought Tobey Maguire was good at it too.
Yes, I just think they leaned into like a style for that movie that I think people were like, that's not how I see that book in my head.
I think that's it, and I think that's a Baz Luhrmann thing. Like, Baz Luhrmann did the Great Gatsby adaptation. If you ever see any Baz Luhrmann movie, he's got a weird style. Like, it's very much that. But Baz Luhrmann did Romeo and Juliet, and we all know what kind of style that was, right?
Yeah.
And then, did you ever see Moulin Rouge?
Yeah, I fucking love Moulin Rouge.
The fucking movie's awesome, and
it's great.
People need to see that movie.
I hope you don't mind.
That fucking music in that movie, the art,
it's awesome. John Leguizamo, freaking Obi-Wan Kenobi.
Yes. Even Nicole Kidman's great. Like, the fucking movie's awesome. But like, that's Baz Luhrmann's style. Like, a lot of people, I think, also had issues with like Elvis and the style of that movie when it came out just recently. But that's his style.
All those are the same.
Those are all Baz Luhrmann movies. Yeah,
I did not realize those were all together, but now that you say it, it makes sense because they all because they're very music incorporated and not like a normal score, but like when I think of The Great Gatsby, the movie, I think of like music and like hip hop. And
he didn't make any movies between Gatsby and Elvis at all.
Fascinating,
right? Did you ever see Australia?
Yes.
with Hugh Jackman. He did that
I
too.
love that movie.
I did
it's
too.
long as shit, but I
It is.
love that movie.
And a lot of people hated that movie.
Yes.
Because they thought it was stupid. And what did he?
Because it was Hugh Jackman, and they really like thought it was going to be something different. But I fucking loved Australia.
I did too.
Movie.
And then did you hear? So this is off topic, but they're doing something with it.
With Australia?
Yes. Shit. Like Boz is turning it into a mini series. Like it's basically like a director's cut, but he's releasing it as episodes. And I think it's going to be on Hulu. I think it's going to be on Hulu of Australia, the movie
like the original movie they're bringing back, or they're redoing everything with new actors.
They're bringing it back. The
fascinating.
That movie, like
it's such a long movie. I mean, honestly, if they were going to do that, like even if they were like remaking that story, it's such a long movie, and like it feels like 3 movies in one.
In November of 2023, I thought this was new. A new extended edit of the film expanded into a 6-episode miniseries, which will be called Faraway Downs, will debut on Disney and Hulu platforms.
Fascinating.
I will watch that.
I will too. And it's been a long time since I've watched that movie. And
it's a 10-year-old movie.
I think my mom and I like watched that together for whatever reason. Like I fondly think of that movie. So Nicole Kidman's in that with him.
Yeah.
Right? Yeah. Wow. What a random movie for us to talk about on this episode. But
that's, because
I liked it.
So. You talked about Romeo and Juliet, Great Gatsby. Those are both Leo movies. They're both Baz Luhrmann movies, but kind of evolved.
Was there any on here that like I haven't talked about? No, we've hit on all. This was probably the first list in a while that I like sat down for extended time to like look at movies, write all of the ones that I think should be, and then like picking them out. And we talked about all the ones that I wanted. The
Leo list was easy for me to do because of the way I did it based on performance, because I know what movies I really like him in. And it's not to say like I don't like him in Shutter Island or I don't like him in Titanic. It's just like these I think are far and away the better performances. So
yeah,
that's it. Anyway,
I thought you'd like my Catch Me If You Can.
I did. I like that movie.
I wouldn't have thought about that.
I've seen that a whole bunch. He is really good in that movie. I mean, when you're up against somebody like Tom Hanks, and you're by far the better part of the movie, the better character. Like, not to say that like Tom Hanks's character wasn't good, but Leo just is really good in that movie too. Just the character,
and he was like young in that movie. Like, super young.
I mean, Leo's. I don't know. Is Leo my age? I mean, he's not. He's not an old man.
This Killers of the Flower Moon was the first time that I was kind of like, oh man, like but like Leo's getting old.
Leo's way older than I thought he was.
He's older than you.
Leo's 48.
He's an old man.
Shit, he's almost 50. He's going to be getting his AARP card soon.
He probably already has it, dude.
He's not that old.
He is old. I wouldn't have said almost 50. Like
I wouldn't have said almost 50 either.
Of the Flower Moon.
Right.
But I do know, like, usually when they see like tabloid pictures or videos of him, they always catch him when he's like in full dad bod, like looks like a slob. But then like he Great Gatsby's it up and he's fucking insane.
Oh, right. But the running joke is Leo's old enough to be the girls he dates father. So
yeah, because he's like a strict like under 25.
25, yeah.
Which is a wild track record that he truly does have. I did not have The Departed in my top 5 Scorsese list or Leo list.
Mm-hmm.
It swung and missed for me. I'll just say that. Okay. So I know it won an Oscar and stuff like that, but a ton of Oscars. For me, it was just, and maybe that's why I need to go back and rewatch.
Yeah, maybe it's a good rewatch for a Scorsese movie. It's rewatchable. Not all of them are
shocking. Yeah,
all of them are.
fuck, I don't remember what. Do you remember what year that came out off the top of your head?
2006. You said it earlier because you looked it up.
Okay, so yeah, so like at that point, I was like a
Teenager?
freshman or 8th grade or something. So like I didn't have the like mental capacity to like understand or pick up what was going on, and it seemed boring to me.
It's probably Wahlberg's best movie too.
Yeah, I didn't. For me, like I don't think it took me a while to kind of grasp like they're the spies on each side, like who's actually from what side and who's actually for the bad guys and the good guys. Anyways, but yeah, fun episode.
Yeah, good episode. So that was episode 26 of the Movie Dads podcast, Killers of the Flower Moon. Go see it. If you're watching us on YouTube, give us a like and subscribe. If you're not watching us on YouTube, you can find us on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Amazon Music, Google Podcasts, Podcast Index. Catch some of our short clips and videos on social media at Movie Dads Pod on Instagram, Facebook, and TikTok. We will be back next week. That's the plan. It's always the plan. We will be back next week for another big premiere movie of the week. Kyle's super excited.
Can't wait.
The new MCU entry, The Marvels. I'm not excited either.
Barf. It'll probably be good.
Well, there's a couple rumors. There's a couple rumors that this might be the movie where we see the X-Men. There was a TV spot.
Interested.
Okay, this was from Dead Robot Hand 6291 or whatever. But there is a TV spot that I've seen that's legit. That it says it shows a couple clips of the movie. It's a TV spot, so it's like 30 seconds. And then it says, see what comes next, like the words, see what comes next. And the X in next stays up longer than the rest of the letters. And then they all...
And there's a circle around it?
No, there's not. It's just the letter. But it purposely stays like a split second longer than the rest of the letters.
They tipped their hat.
People are saying that there's rumors that we're gonna, I don't know.
Do we finally get Taron Egerton? No, what Taron Egerton Wolverine? Is that who people have been fan casting?
That people fan casted him or fucking Scott Eastwood or Daniel Radcliffe.
If fucking Daniel Radcliffe is fucking Harry Potter Wolverine, I am going to lose it. It'll be ruined. So
that'd be all right. I'll give him a shot. Well, anyway, we'll be back next week. See ya.
Bye.